Good evening from New York. I'm Selwyn Collins, your host of CWS. My guest this evening is Denise Hilliman. Denise is a Guyanese born British national with over 25 years teaching experience, serving to the level of associate head teacher. An alumni of St. Joseph's High School, Bishop's High School, University of Guyana, and University of London. Denise taught science and A-level biology in Guyana, Grenada, Barbados, and London, and served as an examiner with CXC, AQA at Oxford and Cambridge. Denise, good evening and welcome to CWS.
Good evening, Colin, and thank you for having me on. Selwyn, sorry.
That's all right. That's all right. Denise, when those very close to you describe you, what do you usually agree with?
What do I usually agree with? I am fun to be around. I am smart, and I usually have pearls of wisdom.
Words of wisdom. Any inherited from your parents?
Yes, I think my mother is very wise,
Mhm.
and so is my dad. But I have to say that when they're in separate rooms.
So
But my dad would say he's the wise one.
give us a pearl of wisdom you remember from your mom that still resonates with you today.
My mom always says the world is a country. And at first, when she said it, I didn't quite understand what she meant. But what she was actually saying is that be careful what you do along the way because the world may seem large, but it's actually very small. And you may end up coming across the paths of those people again. So, in short, be kind to people you meet.
And give us one from your dad.
Well, my dad always would say to me that I'm a light, and I became a teacher. What do they say about teachers? To teach is to light a life forever.
Wow.
Is my dad's pearl of wisdom.
When did this you were you first introduced to the idea that you want to teach?
Now, very interesting. My mom said when I was born, and she arrived home, my great grandmother at the time was totally blind. And when she arrived at the house, my great grandmother shouted, "What baby did you get?" She said, "I got a girl." My great grandmother said, "What's her name?" My mom said, "Denise." And she said, "Teacher Denise." And on up to her death at the age of 88, my great grandmother called me Teacher Denise. My mom said when I was growing up, I wouldn't play with the other children. I would get bricks, line them up, and I would teach the bricks. So I guess from birth, I've been a teacher.
So you mentioned your great grandmother and your mom. Apart from them, who were some other women, or let's say including them, who were some other women that really made an impact in your early life?
I think the women who have made an impact, and this is not in order of the size of the impact. The first person I think who made an indelible print on my mind is a teacher called Miss Jones.
Mhm.
And if she's listening to this program, I just hope because I would like to contact Miss Jones. Miss Jones saw something in me that I didn't see myself. And I remember her giving up her time to teach me after school. And when the common entrance results came out, my name was not in the papers. You know, in those days, Guyana used to publish the names of the students and the schools they got, and my name did not appear. But Miss Jones never accepted it. And she went the extra mile find out why my name wasn't published and discover that there was a mix up with my papers. So that was someone who saw something in me, and she was my advocate.
Mhm.
I've always remembered Miss Joan, and I think because of what she did, I can see many elements in the way I approach my own teaching. So there's Miss Jones, and then my mom, of course.
Mhm.
My mom is a very strong woman. Left, she lost her dad at the age of 5, and my grandmother took her out of school at the age of 14. And she took care of her brothers and her sister, 2 sisters, I think, at the time. And I've seen her persistence, her determination, her strength. But she's always smiling. She always sees the positive side of everything. And even though she's had a lot of disappointments and pain and challenges in her life, she's never allowed them to change the person she is. She's always looking for the positive, and she's always looking for an opportunity to be kind to people. In the more recent times, I think um, there's a lady called Janet Sinclair, who very senior at IBM, and she is a woman who really believes in her talents, but she doesn't let it end there. She looks for talents in others. And she has influenced many young people who have come across her path, including me. And I'm not saying I am young, but, but she has. And I think she's another woman. There are many other women, but I think those 3 women.
Mhm. Mhm. So, um, what was it like growing up in Guyana? And I'll give you two ages. Let's say 10 and 16.
Wow, that's taking me way back, Selwyn. At the age of 10, I was at St. Andrew's Primary School, which is the school just next to Parliament Buildings and near to Stabrook Market. And at the age of 10, those were really fun days. I remember another teacher, Mr. Johnson. Those teachers were really teachers. They didn't just impart knowledge, but they were role models. And it was so fun, the kinds of things they did. The dictation. I remember the dictation. You had to learn to spell the words. We played head and tail. And I remember things like um, playing hopscotch in the school play, playgrounds at the time. And those are some, fun memories I've had at the age of 10, and becoming really nervous around common entrance and being prepared, having after school lessons, getting ready for common entrance, which is what it was called at the time. So at the age of 16, what can I remember then? At 16, I was at St. Joseph's, and I remember being taught by nuns, and it was a girls' school, and us, the nuns very protective of the young ladies, but when the boys came around from St. Stanislaus and Queen's College, oh dear, it was, we couldn't be controlled at that time. So, I mean, those are some of the things I remember. It was a little far back, Selwyn.
What do you miss about school days? Is there anything in particular?
Yes, I miss friendships and relationships. I remember my first day at St. Joseph's. I was lost. I remember that feeling that day, in a big school, all these strange children. And I started crying. And a friend of mine, who is still my friend, Chinese girl called Sandra Lee. She was standing at another corner crying. And I went up to her and I said, "Why are you crying?" She said, "Nobody would talk to me." And I said, "That's why I am crying." And we became friends unto today. We're still friends.
Favorite memory of your parents? And I mean, start with mom.
Well, my mom is still alive.
Well, back then when you were growing up as a child, what is your favorite memory of?
My mom,
Mhm.
oh, what's my favorite memory? I remember when I graduated from St. Joseph's, my mom had to work, and she used to work. She was a conductor on the bus. In those days, those buses were called Tata buses, and my mom was a conductor on the bus. She couldn't make my graduation, but you know what? I remembered when I was walking up to collect my graduation certificate and to be given my graduation ring. I looked up and there was my mom standing at the back of the audience in her uniform. And I can still see my mom standing at the back. So she finished work, didn't have time to go home and get changed, but she just wanted to be there to cheer me on. And
Oh.
that's the kind of mom my mom is. She would go the extra mile for you. She is a mother of mothers.
Tell us about when you first arrived in the UK and what was adjustment like for you?
Well, top of the list would have to be the weather. I arrived in December and I arrived from Grenada. Now, if you have ever been to Grenada,
I have.
have you been to Grenada?
Yes, I have a couple of times.
Well, you can imagine. I mean, I was living on Market Hill in Grenada, overlooking the Carnage. So it's always a lovely blue sea, lovely weather, lovely, breeze, all of those lovely things. And I left Grenada and arrived in London in December 31st, in 1992. When I stepped out of the underground, I could not believe it. The first thing I said, "Why did I do this?" It was cold, it was cloudy, it was raining, and I thought I will never ever adjust to this weather. And do you know what? I don't think I've ever adjusted to it.
Mm.
It's not my favorite type of weather. The cold. I don't like it. But I think my biggest adjustment was uh, cultural, really. Uh, the Caribbean, as you know, is very open. You live a very open life. People are friendly. You talk to people on the bus. You talk. You know your neighbors. When I came to England, it was the first time in my life I experienced loneliness because people are just very busy. They just on the train nobody talks to you. On the bus nobody talks to you. You go to work, and when you walk through those school gates, that's it. Lots of the relationships are just professional relationships. But what I'm very proud about is that I turned that around because I was lonely and I was missing my family. I just started inviting people over to my flat for dinner. Come
what,
over come over for dinner.
what surprised you the most about the UK?
What surprised me the most is um, I think I have to be careful how I answer that because you know we were educated under the British system, and the exams we took, GCSE exams, and it was all British, and so I had this impression that the British education system is a superior system because that's what we were exposed to, and I think one of the things that shocked me when I arrived here, my first term in a British classroom, I could not believe that there were children who couldn't read.
Mm.
Because in Guyana, the education system was highly selective. So you had to pass common entrance to go to schools like St. Joseph's and Bishops. And so the basics we knew. But that was a real shock to me, that there were children who couldn't read and couldn't write properly.
So tell us a little bit about what you do for a living.
Currently, I am a leadership consultant and an entrepreneur. So the leadership consultant side of what I do, I work with senior leaders to raise standards in schools, help them to improve student outcomes by using data effectively.
Mhm.
Looking at how they can use the information they have on the children, the tests they do to raise standards. And then I stand alongside leaders to develop them and to promote the importance of growing leaders at all levels of your organization.
Give us an example of, let's say there are some organizations looking at this program and wanting to hire you. What are they going to get? Give us an example of what you can actually do for them.
What I can do for them, if you're a school, I bring to you my expertise as an educator, over 25 years of it, and getting to the highest level in education here. So I use my expertise to help you to shape the vision of your school. And the vision and the mission of all schools should be to increase the life chances of young people, isn't it?
Mhm.
That's the vision of the vision, the mission of a school.
Mhm.
We want to prepare young people or to be successful after school. So what I do, I help to shape your vision into tangibles, everyday tangibles. So I help you, okay, what your curriculum should be. And the curriculum is the totality of experiences you provide for that young person. So what I do, I help to shape that for you. I also help you to use the data that you collect on the children, like the test data, the sort of cognitive test data, and I help you to use that data to shape the type of curriculum you offer, so that those children will get best education and be ready to go out into the world to live their lives. I also work with leaders at all levels to help them to translate the vision of that school into classroom practices and into other tangibles. But that's one way of looking at it. So what I do, I'm a person who can come in and work with leaders at all levels in your school,
Mhm.
helping them to execute your mission and your vision.
Give us an example of a typical data um, that you would collect, a typical type of data.
Okay, so the type of data would be cognitive achievement test. In America, I think, I don't know if they still do SATs, so it's things like SATs test,
Mm.
GCSE results, it's assessments like when they've completed units in a particular topic, end of unit assessment. Those are some of the data that's collected in the school. So, for example, one school had a significant drop in their advanced level results. So the school offered, I think, five or so subjects. Um, in five or so subjects, they had issues with the results. There was a significant drop. So what they did, they called me in to look at that. And what I would do when I went in, I looked at the results, the results that they had collected over the last uh, 3 years. So that would have been the students' GCSE results and also the tests that they have been doing up to that point. And I help them to interrogate that data to look at what could have gone wrong. And from there, I would then look at what's happening in the classroom, like observing the lessons and giving some feedback on that. And then I would look at what are the systems they have in place to hold the staff to account. So that school, that particular school that I worked with, they went on to get an outstanding.
So I'm just curious, do you ever work outside the framework of a particular type of data collection? Or are there times when you might go into an environment and they don't have data from the cognitive, what is it you said again? It was,
CATS is one type of data we
okay.
collect. Cognitive achievement test. There are other things like reading age data and so on.
So what if an institution calls you in and they don't have any of those type of data? What would you do then?
Well, the thing is, you can't op- operate without data. So if an institution calls me in and their data is all over the place, then or they don't have data, then that would be my priority with that organization.
Mm-hmm.
We'll have to look at what data we can collect in order to make some decisions around what we need to do. Because you can't leadership, every type of leadership has purpose.
Right.
In
And
education, in education, the purpose in leadership is about result. It's about raising standards. It's
right.
about getting the best results for those young people, however that result is defined in your setting.
Mm-hmm.
So whether it's GCSEs or CXC or whatever it is, that's your purpose, is to get those students that currency.
Within your context of um, collecting data, analyzing data, and empowering or preparing an institution to be better, or advising them how they can be better. Are there certain standards that you must stay within, which requires you to get only a certain type of data, or you have the flexibility to say, well, okay, if there isn't cats, or I'm not sure I'm pronouncing it correctly, there's another type of data that you can like you can be creative and come up with a different type of data that than the standard type of data. Are you restricted? Are there certain standards that you must function, or parameters you must function within?
Well, I think it depends on who you're working with.
Uh-huh.
If you are working within, for example, in my setting here in London, if you are working with a school that what we call a state school, then there is certain data sets that you have to collect because that's how you would be held to account by the government.
Okay. Okay.
So we have one type, for example, is what they call progress aid.
Mm-hmm.
What that looks at, it looks at the progress that the students have made in their best 8 subjects. So those are standard data sets that you have to collect.
Why teach, Denise? Why teach, and what was the trigger that led you down that particular path?
Why teach?
Mm-hmm.
Because who is a teacher? My definition of a teacher is someone who helps someone else to avoid traps.
Avoid traps.
Yes, that's a simple definition. I often tell the story of the lion and the mouse. The lion caught the mouse, and the mouse said, "Please, don't eat me." The lion said, and the mouse said, "Don't eat me. I will help you if you set me free." The lion said, "You help me. You are just a mouse. I'm the king of the jungle." But we know the end of that story. That lion was trapped in a net, and that little mouse with his sharp teeth was able to free that lion. And my thing about teaching is teaching is the one profession or the one thing that cuts across every other profession. You think about it, even if you are a cleaner, you still have to teach someone your job. You know, we teach all the time. So why teach? Because teaching is a way of leaving a legacy in another person's life.
Um, what were you doing before you began teaching?
I I have taught all my life.
Mm.
I've done, now I'm the what I'm doing now. That's why it's so exciting for me because
Uh,
I'm an entrepreneur. Because all my life I've taught.
is there a particular is there a defining moment you care to share with us as an educator?
Yes, my defining moment or a moment of truth,
Uh-huh.
I think happened in my first lesson in the British classroom.
Denise, I want to ask you a favor. Just excuse me a bit. The lamp to your left. If you were to turn it off, let's see what happens because there's a. Let me see. Uh, hmm. All right. Let's put it back on and just push it away a little bit away from you, far as possible. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good. So you were saying.
Yes, I walked into the classroom, and this is after I had made several attempts to get a promotion
Uh huh.
here in London. Because remember, I arrived from when I arrived in London, I had already served as head of biology in Grenada. I had a science degree. I already had 2 years or more experience as an examiner. So I came here thinking I'll continue my journey. And I was rejected several times. And I remember walking into this classroom, and there was a little girl sitting at the front. Her handwriting was the neatest I had ever seen. And I said to her, I said, "You have beautiful handwriting." She looked at me. She said, "Thank you." I said, "What do you want to be when you grow up?" She said, "A teacher like you." Now, when she said that to me, that just made me realize that here was I looking for promotion, and this girl saw me as her example.
Wow.
And in that moment, I suddenly started to think, what type of teacher am I? What kind of example am I being to this girl? I also started thinking, how am I interacting with others? What is she seeing? I then thought, what can I do to help this young girl to achieve her dreams? And at that moment, I stopped thinking about going for promotion because I thought only from that position I would be able to make a difference. But I realized in that classroom that you don't have to be in a position of power or in a position, a so called position within a company or in a school to make a difference. I realized that the fundamental thing about making a difference is being an example for others.
I like that. Tell us about Leeds. Why you started the organization and how did you come up with the name?
I came up with LEAD because it's about leadership.
Mhm.
And people often ask me, what does LEAD stand for? And I say, lead, just lead. My mission with LEAD is to get leadership, and not any type of leadership, not the leadership of position, but the leadership of influence and impact, where everyone will believe that they have the potential to be an example of inspiration. And what does inspiration mean? It means when people come in contact with you, they never leave the same. They always leave wanting to aim for a higher level of achievement or a higher level of success. So, why did I start it? Well, I think I need to take you back the very beginning. My parents, uh, Una and Vernon, they got married in 1960. And by 1964, they already had 3 children. And that period was a very difficult time in Guyana, those of you who can remember your history. And my parents, my dad didn't have a steady job. My mom thought we can't have another baby. And so they decided that they would abort me. But the night before, my dad had a dream, and he dreamt, he woke my mom up and said, "Wake up, we cannot get rid of this baby. The baby is going to be a girl, and she is going to be a leader." I dreamt her carrying a torch, and hundreds of people were following her. And so my dad never called me anything else but light and leader. But do you know what's interesting about it? I never realized that until about a couple of months ago.
Mm-hmm.
When the logo for my business was sitting on my table at home on a flyer, and the logo for my business is someone passing a torch on to someone else. And my mom saw it and she said, "What's this?" I told her, and that's when she told me the story.
Wow.
So, so I say to people, it was destined for me to be passionate about leadership from the womb. So fast forward now to where I am. The reason I set up this business, because in my 25 years of teaching, and I have taught in several schools, I've come across over 25,000 children in different countries, and I realized that the one thing that causes young people to shift from just being ordinary to extraordinary is the belief that they have the potential within them to be an inspiration. And it's a formula that I have used throughout my career. I remember Tanya is one example I've given with the young girl sitting who I saw in the classroom. Now, I use what I had, my offer, to help that young girl to become, to do well. I would teach her extra lessons. I'll do all kinds of things. And she became the first student to go to Oxford University from that school where I was. And this is the kind of approach I have. Every child I look at, I'm thinking, if only you can believe that you have the input, the potential to be whatever you want to be, that is the big barrier. And so I remember one example where this young boy was getting into trouble all the time, and he was brought to my office. I looked at him, I said, "What do you want to be when you grow up?" He said, "I want to be a lawyer." And all I did, I connected him with a lawyer called David Meter, a Jamaican lawyer. I brought him in, he had a conversation with that boy, and do you know what? That boy went on to study law. So why did I do this? I set this up because I want everyone, not only students, but every person to realize that we all have the potential to be an example of inspiration.
Before we go for a quick break, this question I have to ask you. Have you ever thought of giving up?
Yes,
And what stopped you?
the consequences of not continuing.
Okay, let's take a break.